You are listening to episode number 80 of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. In today's episode, we talk with Tom O'Hara, W6ORG, about amateur television, so stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. My name is Curtis, my call sign is Kilo 5 Charlie Lima Mike, and I am your host for this podcast. This podcast releases every Thursday morning. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Everything Ham Radio, or the group at facebook.com/groups/Everything Ham Radio. I'm on YouTube at youtube.com/Everything Ham Radio, and on Twitter at K5CLM. You can find the show notes for today's episode, which will have all of the links that we're going to be talking about, as well as some additional information. And you can find that at everythinghamradio.com/podcast/80. That's the number 80. Like I said, we are talking with Tom O'Hara, W6ORG today, and we're talking about amateur television. Now, that's a little bit different than slow scan television, so we're going to talk to him and find out how that's different. But before we get started, as many of you know, and probably have seen on the Facebook group, yesterday, as of the time of this recording, on July 31st, 2017, the 4 kids that I had in my care are now officially mine. They have my last name. They are going to be living with me forever. So this week has been a super exciting week. We have lots of stuff planned, lots of family outings and fun things to do. So this week is just awesome. I had this whole week off of work. I don't go back until Monday, and it's been amazing. And I am, like I said, I am like super stoked. I don't think I slept, but maybe an hour or so on Sunday night, and getting up super early at like 5 o'clock in the morning after going to bed at 1 o'clock and finally making it to sleep probably about 3:30. It was a very fun day yesterday. A lot of family was there, a lot of friends were there, and the one thing that foster care requires is that you not post anything on Facebook as far as pictures go about the kids that are in your care. So yesterday, my wife and I blew up our personal Facebook feeds with all the pictures that we've taken of these kids over the past almost basically 2 years that we've had them. So it's been fun, and I'm looking forward to the rest of my life with them. It's kind of surreal if you can understand. But they are officially mine now. They have my last name, and it's super excited. And if you haven't seen the picture of my family, you can find them on the group. I did post a picture of them as well as my wife and I on the group, on the Facebook group. So make sure you check that out if you are so inclined. I do want to mention, I do have something in the works for episode 100, and that's a mere 20 weeks away. It's actually like the Thursday before Christmas. So I'm working on some things, on some maybe some giveaway items, and I want to do something special. And I'm kind of looking for some ideas, and I'm thinking that I might even do a live episode on the 100th episode. So I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, and I might even do like the whole thing on Facebook Live, do it that way, and then record it as well. So that one might be a little late, but if you have any ideas, or you want to contribute to something special, hit me up, shoot me an email, k5clm@everythinghamradio.com, and we can maybe work something out. But I guess let's go ahead and get to the interview with Tom. And like I said, we were talking about amateur television. I have a lot of really interesting information as well in the interview. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with that. Let's get talking with Tom. Hey everybody, we are here with Tom O'Hara, W6ORG, and he has a amateur radio website. That's our amateur radio television website, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Tom, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little about your history and how long you've been a ham and all that good stuff.
Well, I was first licensed in 1957. Got interested in it when junior high school. And did a lot of the usual things. You start out looking at DX, and that, of course, in 59, 60, we had that peaks of the sunspot cycle. So I thought, gee, you can talk to the world anytime, any day, all over. Of course, it's all different now in the bottom of the cycles. But that really got me going in it, and so it's been a good hobby that eventually turned into a full-time business in amateur television, and so I really can't complain. Amateur radio has been very, very good to me.
So you actually have a business based around this?
Well, I did. I retired from it and closed it down 2.5 years ago, but I started it in about 1965. Started making printed circuit boards for teletype with Air Force Mars. And so I called, you got to name a company name, so I just called it PC Electronics for printed circuits. Well, how did I know that personal computers would be so popular, a couple decades later? So I still get calls once in a while saying, hey, can you help me with my computer? And I said, no, you want a printed circuit board, I could maybe help you back then, but not anymore. So the company's name was PC Electronics and started formally in 65, and like I say, we just ended up. So almost 50 years of business. We went full-time in it in 1977. I was, at the time, director of engineering for a wireless microphone company, and my boss made a mistake of giving me a good bonus, and I said, I got to try doing this full-time because I can't do both. The number of orders and stuff were too big to where I couldn't do it anymore, so I said, thanks a lot. I quit, and and there we went.
Thanks for the bonus. See you later.
Yeah, right. That'll teach them, huh?
Yeah, they won't. I bet you they didn't give that big of a bonus anymore. So how did you get into the ATV side of things?
I read a book made by Mel Shadbolts, and he's going to kill me for not remembering his call letters. He's He's the owner of ATV Research, which pretty good distributor of cameras and related equipment. I read his book that I got, I think, through 73 magazine or somebody had it, and it just sounded like this might be a fun facet of the hobby to play with. Of course, back then it was all tubes, so, it warmed the shack and burned your fingers once in a while, but we could get pictures across town with simple modulated oscillators and surplus cameras from World War II. You could get these huge cameras. They were called an ATK, and they were made for actually video-guided bombs in World War II. They stick them in these guided bombs and drop them off a B-17, and hopefully it landed on the submarine pens there in France. That was the idea, anyway. And the plant for that was not too far from me here in El Monte, Fletcher Aviation. So he had a whole bunch of them there and says, I know you're a ham. I've got a couple dozen here. You want to distribute them around the hams in Southern California, and that kind of got it going.
I didn't even know there was such a thing back then. Wow. Learn something new every day, I tell you what. So what exactly is ATV before we go any further?
Well, ATV is just what you've seen on broadcast TV before it all went cable and digital. It was just standard television, so it was real easy to receive a signal. The receiver was just your television set. Back in the early days, you had to put a down converter on it to take the UHF signal off the 70 centimeter band and move that down to a TV channel, usually channel 3, to see it. Then later on, when cable channels came along, cable channels 57 through 60 cover the whole 70 centimeter band. So all you had to do was put up an antenna on 70 centimeters and hook it to your TV, and you could watch somebody transmitting. So it's a pretty simple thing to get on, and you could talk back to the transmitting station on a 2-meter frequency. That's sort of a standard thing with ATV. All the other stations receiving can talk back to you on the 2-meter channel in full duplex while you talk on the sound subcarrier. At first, people were black and white because of the bandwidth and difficulty with the high Qs in some of the old tube transmitters, which were modified FM voice transmitters in the 60s and 70s. And then things got into more solid state and wider bandwidths. Color cameras, prices started coming down. So it's sort of evolved over the time. Now you can buy a color camera from ATV Research for under $50, that's got high resolution and really looks good.
Now, are we talking about like live television?
Live television, like standard broadcast, full movement, full color, full sound, just like the old over-the-air broadcast that everybody's used to.
Wow. So when did this aspect of the hobby actually start, do you know?
Well, it started with the first experimenters in the 30s who really designed and developed television. Of course, World War II kind of stopped all that. Hams couldn't, transmit anymore. But they did develop it. So just after World War II in the late 40s, early 50s is when broadcast television really took off. And, of course, there were a lot of hams who worked in that industry. In fact, they recruited people who were hams in the old broadcast days. And so why not, if you do it for work, why not try it at home and transmit to your friends? And all kinds of applications went from that.
Now, is it more like a directed signal, or is it omnidirectional, or?
Well, of course, that depends on the antenna. In the early days, we all had high gain antennas because being a wideband mode, 6 megahertz bandwidth, the noise floor is pretty high. It's like about 1 to 2 microvolts is the noise floor. And to get a snow-free picture, you got to be 40 dB above that. So it took some power. So most of us had beams, and we'd direct them at each other. And again, that's where 2 meters came in. You called on 2 meters first. Any ATVers around? And so they'd say, oh, this is so-and-so in this city, and you aim your antennas at each other. Then you turn the video on and fine-tune the picture in.
So you can't actually, could you, like if I'm here and you're there and I point, of course, I'm in Texas and you're in California, so I really probably couldn't do that. But if you were close to me, could I point my beam to you and you point your beam to me and we hold a video conference, or is it just whoever's transmitting, just like half duplex?
Well, it's duplex audio usually always, and half duplex for the video. But later on, when we started getting gear more affordable for the higher bands, like a lot of our repeaters are use 70 centimeters and 23 centimeters or 33 centimeters. So you can go full duplex. In fact, that's one of my main interests that I've done for the last maybe 25, 30 years is to have a portable full duplex TV system at a 100-mile trail race here locally in Southern California. And it goes from a very remote aid station down to the major medical aid station at mile 75 in the race, so that the medical people could better evaluate the runners if they were, having any medical problems.
Wow.
And from that, all their friends of the runner would see them on there, and pretty soon it evolved to where I was up all night, with a video between the two aid stations and all their friends and families and people waiting for them down at our aid station when I wanted to get on there and talk to them. And it really perked them up to see their friends and stuff like that.
Now, I know that here recently the ISS did like some still pictures. Is that the same thing, or is that something that's different?
You're probably talking about slow scan. That's been around a while. That's basically still pictures. I think the fastest you can get a still picture is 8 seconds, and that's a black and white picture. And then as color came in, that took, I'm trying to remember. It took almost a minute or more, because it's a time versus bandwidth and number of pixels that you want to resolve. But the nice thing about slow scan is you could do that on any standard voice bandwidth medium, like single sideband or AM or FM. With ATV, though, you need an actual ATV transmitter capable of doing the 6 megahertz bandwidth on UHF.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I was wondering that because I read a story about actually on another podcast that I listened to. They interviewed some people that were getting those pictures down from the ISS a couple weekends ago, and it really seemed really interesting to me. But ATV, I mean, especially if you can do like full duplex, like a video conferencing, that is really neat and is really something that is, I guess, really high in demand as far as stuff like the race you're talking about, I'm sure.
Yes. Originally, we just had one direction, but they weren't happy with just having a voice on one end. The people at our aid station could see the runner at the aid station. It was about 6 miles away, up on top of a ridge, 4,000 feet, and we were down 2,200 feet. So they could look at, see the guy, but they wanted to talk back to him other than on 2 meters. Both ends wanted to see each other. Mm-hmm. And that became a big thing, so I added that to it. I made up what I called my milk crate repeaters. I put a receiver and a transmitter in a milk crate, and that was my little portable, so I could pick it up and move it anywhere and drop it down. So we use that for a lot of public service events and for emergency stuff. We could take it up. I even put it in a helicopter, and that's been done a lot of times around the Southern California area by races groups.
Wow.
But you can just take it and drop it on a hilltop somewhere and have a portable ATV repeater, but it's dual band, so you can run full duplex if you want, rather than repeat.
Cool. Well, we will talk about that here a little bit later and get some more information on that, because that sounds really awesome. But for right now, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some specifics of what you can do with ATV and some more of the technical aspects of it. So stick around, we'll be right back. Do you have an old-fashioned voltage or amp meter hooked to your station? Are you looking to find something that has more bells and whistles? Check out the West Mountain Radio Power Check. The Power Check has 8 display modes, including voltage, current flow in either direction, wattage, and amp hours, and will measure from 0 to 60 volts with 40 amps continuous load. It is accurate to within 10 millivolts and 10 milliamps. It has a backlit graphics LCD that will display data in digital, analog, and bar graph formats. You can even monitor your battery backup with a programmable gas gauge. The non-volatile memory stores more than 100,000 data points without power. That's nearly 2.5 months worth of data at 1 point per minute. It has a USB computer interface for configuration and data download, and you can program it to sound an alarm for overcurrent, over and under voltage, and amp hours. The software that comes with it allows you to program every aspect of the Power Check operation, such as data logging rate, display formats, and alarm conditions. You can display current, voltage, wattage, and amp hours in real time. It has an integrated charting software that automatically collects and displays data. All the data can be downloaded and stored for later analysis. If this sounds like something you would really like, make sure you head on over to everythinghamradio.com/WMR and check it out. And if you do, and enter the code EHSUMMER at checkout, you will get $50 off of your purchase. Normally the Power Check runs $184.95. If you enter the coupon code EHSUMMER,
you get a $50 discount, and that comes to $134.95. You can't beat it. The offer expires September 30th, 2017, so make sure you head on over and get yours before the coupon expires.
Also, don't forget to pick up your free USB port monitor with your purchase. Again, that's everythinghamradio.com/WMR for more information. Alright, y'all, we are back with Tom O'Hara, W6ORG, and we are talking about ATV, amateur television. So, we talked a little bit about it in the first segment, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you can do with ATV?
Well, as I mentioned before, my main interest has always been public service events. I was involved with the Rose Parade for many years, and one of the problems we had in the command trailer was, again, it's a person with a walkie-talkie can describe a scene, but it's not as good as a picture. So they asked me to if I could do ATV from one of the sheriff's helicopters. So I got a couple nice rides around the Rose Parade for 2 years. And then I put it on a motorcycle, and I rode the thing, and they told me where an incident was happening, like a medical emergency. So I'd ride there and turn the camera on, and we'd transmit back to the operations center. So there's a lot of those kinds of things. A lot of ATV can be done at, besides parades, races. We even did it during the '84 Olympics. For crowd control, they want to see how the crowds are, where they go when the thing is over, how the people disperse so they can design their traffic system a little better. So there's a lot of those kinds of things. Some people got into balloons. You can put a small transmitter in a high-altitude balloon and see the curvature of the Earth from, it goes up to 100,000 feet, usually before the balloon pops. Done a lot of those kinds of things. You can put it in radio-controlled vehicles. Now, of course, everybody's doing it with those little copters, but hams have been doing ATV from RC vehicles for quite a while. One guy even put it in a submarine. I never understood that one, but I don't know. He was having fun.
That would be interesting. I find it kind of hard to believe that it would transmit through the water, though. I guess maybe he had like a floating antenna with it or something.
No, it just didn't go very far. But he only wanted to see it from his pool, so I don't know. You hear a lot of crazy things. I've made special transmitters to be taken up to Mount Everest. A Canadian group took one of my transmitters up to I think it was the 22,000-foot base camp. They transmitted that down to Kathmandu. That went through satellites and everything, and it was on Nightline one night.
Wow.
But it's still out of a crevice up there because they had the light and the load. They couldn't take it to the very top like they wanted, so it's in a crevice up there if anybody wants to go get it. And we have done it with the space. You mentioned the space thing. We did do video from the ground to STS-50, the space shuttle, and that was a special thing that I collaborated with the Jet Propulsion Radio Club and the Motorola Schaumburg, I think it was Schaumburg Radio Club, and we set up a receiver. They set up a receiver that got taken up. It got space qualified. And then a couple of stations down here got special permission that we applied for through the FCC, and we transmitted video up to an astronaut in the shuttle. So there's all kinds of little things like that.
Wow. Do you build ATV transmitters and stuff and sell them?
Well, that was my business. Was I designed and manufactured ATV transmitters, receivers, controllers, all kinds of whistles and bells that went with it, and also became a distributor too for equipment that complemented, like antennas, because you need a broader bandwidth antenna. The old Antenna Lab, I still have still have their website on my website. Video Links transmitters, they make the little modules that a lot of the ballooners use. Amplifiers, we used to sell the Mirage amplifiers before they sold out for the original Mirage So, all kinds of things as the business.
But you don't do it anymore, though.
No, after 49 years, I figured it was time.
Well, you got to retire sometime, right?
That's right.
So, what kind of power limit do you have with ATV?
Well, there is no special power limit for ATV. You can run the 1500 watts if you want and got the power to do it. But in Southern California and some other parts of the country, we have a 50 watt limit, especially if you're near any military locations or if they have radars and things that are sensitive and you can't run. But they let us run 50 watts here. And that's usually enough for most applications to get to a repeater or line of sight, of course. I have on my website a graph of expected line of sight distances given antenna gains. So, if you can work them on 2 meters, usually you can work them on ATV with good beams.
So, I guess really, with 1500 watts, what kind of range should you expect? with say let's say an omnidirectional antenna with say like 60 dB, just a regular. I know I'm getting really technical, but if I have like a say just a mag mount or a J pole or something like that on my tower like I do outside, and I have the 1500 watt. I don't. I wish I did sometimes, but I don't. But what kind of range should I expect?
Well, I think you'd have a crispy critter for an antenna with 1,500 watts going to it for the mag mount. I don't know. That's an unusual combination. I've never had to do that.
Okay, well,
400 is the most I've ever done. But like I said, we ran actually 400 watts to the shuttle, and that was a couple of hundred miles. But actually, the ATV DX is Hawaii to California. That was a rare tropoducting opening, and they were running 100 watts. So that's, 2,400 miles? I think it's 22 or 2,400 miles. I have to look it's on my website. But there's a couple thousand miles. So if you have a path, and tropo skip, they get a lot about this time of the year. From June to July is the best times. People in the Midwest get 400 or 500 miles, not unusual in the just around sunset, with 100 watts. So all that power, I don't know, over the line of sight is very hard to determine.
So ATV is basically just strictly the line of sight then.
For most things, but you never know. I always tell people, try it. If you don't make it one position, move the antenna a little bit. Every wavelength away changes all the conditions. You might get a lucky bounce off a water tower, a mountain. I've gotten some mountain skip here. I don't have a direct line of sight to San Diego, which is 110 miles away from me. But if I aim it towards Mount Baldy here, which is a 10,000 foot peak, and I'm at 300 above sea level here, I could bounce into San Diego quite often. So
let's scale it back then for the beginning user, somebody that's just trying to get in. What's the normal power rating of a relatively cheap transmitter?
Okay, well, our main product line was a 10 or a 20 watt transceiver over the years, and that was pretty good for normal line of sight operation. We used to tell people, anywhere 10 to 25 miles if you have reasonably flat country, and get your antenna up maybe 40 feet, 10, 15 dB gain antenna, you probably could make the path quite easily.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That might be...
You might be able to find our old gear on eBay. They work pretty long time. I've seen people still using them after 30 years, so you can still find the PC Electronics transceivers and transmitters on there. The newer one, though, one I'd recommend is from Video Links. It's a 5 watt module. They run about $200. The old transceivers, I've seen them on eBay anywhere from $100 to $300. There are other manufacturers and different ones. You could go up to $1,000 if you wanted to, but about the same power level. Some are just a little fancier than others, or they do it a different way. What's coming in new, though, some new are getting into digital TV, but that's a whole different subject and much more complex than the old broadcast way, which was amplitude modulated, very simple transmitters.
So I see on your website you have a hat cam.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work?
Video Links makes a little 50 milliwatt small little transmitter. You can just snap in a 9-volt battery and a little antenna on the top. You put a little aluminum foil for a ground plane, and you can walk around and they see what you see. It's fun for walking around Hamfests. But some public service people have made those, and it's good for looking at disaster sites, real or practice, and transmitting that back to an emergency operations center through a portable repeater.
So what kind of range are you looking at with something like that? Half a mile or so, maybe?
Yeah, half a mile. I had one at a race once that, I was getting about a half a mile, and that was with a 5-element beam at the receive site and just the little Omni, like you say, sticking out the top. It was just good line of sight.
I was going to say, a 5-element beam on top of my head, that would not be...
No. I wouldn't put it past some hams, though. I've been to some ham fests and I've seen stuff like that.
So with... I'm sure, the higher you get, of course, with anything is going to be a whole lot better. But, what have you done a whole lot of with, the balloon type things?
WB80LK, Bill Brown, he's the high guru of balloons. I think he's done hundreds of balloon flights now. But in the early days when he lived out here, we'd go out and try to find his balloons. But I've collaborated with a number of people on those. They're a lot of fun to watch it go up and then go out and try to find it.
I'm sure they could probably get rather lengthy, I'm sure, trying to find those from where they started from. So, let me ask you this, if you know this. You might not. Do they have these type of amateur television transmitters on the weather balloons that NOAA sends up, or...
Oh no, those are radiosondes, and that's strictly for doing wind speeds and things. Hams do something similar to that, though. They will put a GPS and APRS transmitter on there. Or, they can either do that on another band, like 2 meters is most common, I guess. Or they could actually connect it to the sound subcarrier and use that for the APRS packet data.
There's just so many things that I see that this could be used for. I mean, even though it's I think, okay, this would be great for, for, like you said, like your race that you're talking about. It could be used for something like that. But then I think also, you have the Arden network, the ham mesh networking, that has the video conferencing. Do you know anything about that? How it compares to ATV?
They're very similar. The only thing with that, and that's another characteristic too of the digital TV, is latency, which means because the computer or the receiver and the transmitter have to encode, decode, that takes time. So you have to get used to waiting anywhere from a half a second to 3 or 4 seconds. So if you try to do full duplex, we say, here, count to 4 before we respond to anybody. But it's once you get used to that, it's a lot longer than you experience on Skype, but it's a similar type of thing.
So you get the latency with the ATV or with the ham mesh?
Well, ham mesh, if you hook up an IP camera, You can do that real easy. And in fact, some of the ham mesh guys are doing that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's no reason you can't do ATV through the mesh.
So it is you mentioned the latency area. Is it like, I mean, is there a noticeable difference between the audio and the video, or are they pretty well synced?
With digital TV and that it's an all or nothing. In fact, it's called the cliff effect. You get down to that cliff and you go 1 more dB weaker signal, and the whole picture goes away. Before that, you get a perfect picture. So you do get much better resolution, much better pictures with digital or an IP camera. You can go 1080p resolution, which is, the highest normal that we have on broadcast and cable now. With standard AM, it was, you could get similar to the 480 resolutions, if you're familiar with the cameras and stuff. So, how much do you really need for amateur stuff? I don't know. It's just nicer, but you don't have the susceptibility to interfering signals with digital as you do with AM. If you have an interfering signal down 40 dB from the peak of the video carrier, you can still tell it's there. But with a digital, I forget the numbers, but I think you can go as high as 10 dB. I'd have to look that up. But you get a perfect picture until the interference starts. So it's very forgiving as far as interference and quality of picture as for digital.
So do you get the latency with just the standard ATV, the analog signal?
No, it's instantaneous.
That's cool.
So that's why full duplex, especially for people who aren't used to that, like the public service stuff, I think AM is better. One way, it wouldn't make any difference, one-way video. But if you go to duplex, then you might want to consider going AM. But there's a lot of reasons you might want to go one way versus the other, depending on the locations and applications and that kind of thing. One other thing I should mention, it is tougher to go digital TV as far as getting power. You need super linear amplifiers, and you have to take care on how hard you drive the amplifier because it'll distort and you won't get a picture, or it'll start growing sidebands.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the equipment that goes along with ATV. So stick around, y'all. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Dan, KB6NU, author of the No Nonsense Amateur Radio License Study Guides. My study guides have helped thousands get their license or upgrade to general class or extra class, and they can help you too. What makes them unique is my no-nonsense style. I don't bamboozle you with a lot of text. Instead, I give you just what you need to know in a simple, straightforward way that's designed to help you pass the test. One reader even told me, your study guide explained in a couple of paragraphs topics that the license manual needed a couple of pages to cover. Another wrote, the clarity and simplicity of your descriptions blew the license manual away. My study guides are available in paperback, in a variety of ebook formats, and even as audiobooks. Get your copy today. Go to kb6nu.com/ETHR for more info. Thanks.
All right, y'all. We are back with Tom O'Hara, W6ORG, and we are talking about amateur television. And we've talked about some of the things that you can do, and we talked about the history and stuff like that. And we talked a little bit about the equipment, but let's kind of dive into what the equipment is that you need and cost and stuff like that. So, me being absolutely new to this, what would I need to buy in order to get started?
Well, to get your feet wet, first of all, it'd be good to know if there was an ATVer in your area that could help Elmer you through the thing and send you a picture when you were ready to take a look. But first thing to get would be most likely a 70-centimeter antenna that you could put up at least above tree level if you could, but, up on the roof. And good low-loss coax because UHF frequencies have a lot more loss. And run that to your TV set and connect it to cable channel 57 through 60, whatever's being used in your area. Again, you'd have to find out from your local ATV group because some are horizontal polarized, some are vertically polarized, some use one channel versus another. And if you have 2 meters, that's always good too, so you can coordinate what you're doing. Now, to go to transmit, if you just want to play and have fun, you could get that little Video Links 434 like I have on the hat cam and just, transmit short distances or demonstrate it at a ham club or that type of thing. And you can hook up your camcorder. Most people have a camcorder of some kind. The plugs out of most of those have an adapter to go to, just the AV, what do they call it, phono plugs, RCA phono plugs. Just connect those up and away you go. So you can get on pretty cheap for a simple thing just to play. If you want to get a little more serious, get a little more power, the Video Links 5-watt module will probably do you pretty well. 5-10 miles, again, depending on terrain. So that's $200. Antenna, coax, power supply, that usual thing. You could get on eBay or have some of the ham swap nets, some of our old transmitters and transceivers that run either 10 or 20 watts. So you can get away fairly inexpensive. If you want to buy some brand new stuff, you can go anywhere from, $300-400 to $1,000 in varying degrees. So it's probably you're going to talk to your local people and find out what they're doing. 70 centimeter AM is the most common. Some may be into 23 centimeter FM. Some may be into 2.4 gigahertz FM. You can use modified security cameras and equipment. There's a lot of variables, but the local, you kind of have to go with what the locals in your area are doing and their standards to really get going.
Now, is there a standardized, like a site that I can go to find my local club, or can I do that like through the ARRL, or how would I find out if I have a local club?
Just so happens there's a great website called hamtv.com. And on there I've got a list of some of the more well-known ham clubs, amateur television clubs and groups. And in fact, if you go to our application notes webpage, it's one of the items on there is other ham groups and clubs. And that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah, there's actually one not too far from me in Waco. Cool.
There you go.
Well, about 75 miles or so. But so, okay, we talked about how much it's going to cost. And you mentioned earlier that it's basically line of sight. You talked about a little milk crate repeater thing you were talking about. What exactly is that?
It's it's actually a miniature repeater. I use one of my low power transmitters, 1 or 2 watts, and a receiver, and a simple repeater controller. I basically just used a video operated relay that I designed aboard and put it in a milk crate with a battery and a AC supply so I could go either way, and put some clamps on the side of it so I could put a mast clamp to it, and 15 feet of masting on 5-foot sections, 5 or 6 element beam, and you can take that around in a car or any vehicle or lug it around and set it anywhere, and make a little video system for different public service applications was my main idea. Something like that, cost wise, I don't know. On my website, it's shown there in the application notes, the portable repeater. Again, I don't remember the total cost. It probably vary today. I wouldn't think it would cost you over $500 or $600, something like that.
Now, is that a crossband type repeater, or is it,
Yeah. Yeah, in-band repeaters are very tough because you have to use either 8 to 10 pole VSB filters, they're called, as we call them, vestigial sideband filters. They have to be flat for the 6 megahertz and very sharp skirts if you want to try an in-band repeater. And you have to space it 12 megahertz apart, which doesn't leave you much of the 70 centimeter band. It's only 30 megs wide. So, and those are fairly large devices. Most of them are rack mounts. So you can't lug around a rack mount with a duplexer with 2 VSB filters. It'd be kind of hard. So if you go crossband, then all you need is a low pass on one and a high pass on the other, and you can get those for, especially low power. You can get those from many circuit labs for, I don't know, $30, $40 at the most, I think.
Now, being that it is crossband, if I'm looking to get more range out of my system, can I have multiple of these repeaters to get over a wider area, or would that not work really well?
Oh yeah, you can go linking, and crossbanding makes it easier too. In other words, you go up on one frequency, it comes down on another band. The one after that goes back to the original band, assuming the first one doesn't see the third one. Or you can even use another band. I've seen them. We use a combination of. Here we use all the frequencies. We got. How many repeaters? I don't know if you're familiar with the Southern California area, but we're a coastal plain. Goes inland maybe 30, 40 miles, and we have these huge mountains up there that probably average 6,000 feet. So it just cries out to put repeaters on them. So it's an easy shot up there. So to go from one end to the other, we link a whole bunch. In fact, we're linked with the local system here all the way to Las Vegas, Mesa, Arizona, Santa Barbara, San Diego, out in the high desert. And we use all the frequencies up through 5 gigahertz for linking, so we don't interfere with each other between different repeaters. And I think I mentioned to the through the internet too. You can link on the ATN system. That's the Amateur Television Network. It's probably the most number of repeaters all tied together that I'm aware of. I think there's 10 total now. They have a net tonight, by the way, at 7:30 Pacific every Tuesday, and all the repeaters are linked. And sometimes they get on the internet and they link into ATV repeaters in other countries, like the New Zealanders are on, and the Australians quite often. But on the BATC.TV website, that's Bravo Alpha Tango Charlie Tango Victor, they've got repeaters on there that you can click on. I think there's over 150 of them on there. But W6ATN is one of them, and you can click on there and you can see what's on that repeater. And you can also get on the chat messages and talk back to them, and even check in for the ATV net. So there's a lot of different things you can do with ATV and mix up all the different applications.
So with the ATV repeater, is that something that you basically have to build yourself, or can you buy them somewhere?
I don't know of anybody who does that. There's too many variables in what people want. I tried it one time in my business PC electronics, but it was like each one was custom, and no way could I charge enough to put all the time and different things I put into it. I made a basic 50-watt transmitter, putting modules and stuff together and rack mounting. But most people, it's a custom job, because you'll use different bands, different modes, and you may have a lot of other variables too that you might want to hook in, say, a local 2-meter repeater, voice repeater too, on the sound subcarrier. We have that here. We can talk back to the repeater on. We use 146.43 and a tone, and that comes out on the sound subcarrier. So anybody who's receiving, they don't even have to have a TV transmitter. They can talk back to anybody they can see on their TV.
Wow. Well, I think that is pretty much all that I have. I think we've pretty well touched on everything. Is there anything else that you can think of that we didn't touch on?
Well, all I can say is it's been great for me. I've been in it, the 50 years or so. And what started out as a hobby became a good business, and now it's back to being a hobby, and I'm still enjoying it. There's just so many facets and things you can get into with it that I'd recommend it to anybody who's interested in technology and doing something with it rather than just looking at another ham or talking to another ham.
Yeah. Well, very good. Well, I will include a link to your website as well as the BATC website that we mentioned here. If there's any other websites you can think of, please send me an email with them or whatever, and I'll make sure that they get it put on the show notes as far as what people might want to know about. So, Tom, thank you very much for coming on, and I apologize again for not being able to do this earlier in the day so you could have made your Taco Tuesday, but it was great. It was great having you on here and learning about ATV, and I greatly appreciate it.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and practically everything I know is on my hamtv.com website. Even though I don't have the business anymore, I'm going to keep the website up, and we still will service our old gear and help people troubleshoot. There's another website you might also want, which is a current one that has lots of good application notes also, and that's the KH6HTV.com. That's Kilo Hotel 6 Hotel Tango Victor.com, and he's kind of specializing in the digital stuff, so he's really up on that stuff and promoting it.
All right, very good. Well, Tom, thank you again for coming on the show and talking to us about amateur television. Hopefully we'll spark some interest with somebody, and maybe you'll be getting in contact with somebody. Can you give the listeners maybe an email address or social media, wherever you're easy enough to get in contact with if they have any further questions for you, if you don't mind?
Oh, sure. It's on the website. Probably the easiest one to remember is my call letters, W6ORG at ARRL.net.
All right, very good. Well, if you have any questions for Tom about ATV and you would like to know further, just shoot him an email. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer it. Definitely check out his website. Again, that's hamtv.com. Has a bunch of stuff on there. I spent hours on there looking at his website. He's got a lot of stuff. So make sure y'all check that out. And we will go ahead and wrap this up. So, again, Tom, thank you for coming on, and 73 to you, sir.
73, Curtis, and it's been my pleasure.
Have a great one. All right, guys and gals, so that pretty much wraps up this episode of the Everything Ham Radio podcast. Again, if you want to look at the show notes, you can find them at everythinghamradio.com/podcast/80. That's the number 80. Again, you can find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, all those good places. You can find links to those in the show notes as well, or at the beginning of this podcast. I want to thank all of you that have helped me financially support this podcast, and if you would like to do so, there are several ways you can do it. You can do it through a one-time donation through PayPal. You can do it by becoming a per-episode contributor through Patreon. You can do it for as low as $1. Everything helps. Or you can simply shop on Amazon.com using my affiliate link. You can find more information on how to do each of these things on the website at everythinghamradio.com/support. It'll tell you how to do that. There are links in the sidebar as well for Amazon and through to Patreon. So at the bottom of the show notes, there's a link to leave a one-time donation. I want to thank y'all for each of you that have done that, as well as to my one Patreon that I have. He has been contributing $1 per episode for the past, 4 or 5 months, something like that. So thank you very much for that. And his name is Brian Stanford. So Brian, thank you for your continued support through Patreon. And like I said, you can do it for as low as $1 per episode. So you're looking for maybe $5 a month, and it goes a long way to helping pay the bills for this podcast. So if you feel so inclined to do so, please head on over to my Patreon page. You can find a link to in the on the main website, or any page on the website in the sidebar. I guess that pretty much wraps it up. Again, I want to mention one more thing. I mentioned it earlier at the beginning of the show. I'm trying to plan out something big for episode 100, which will be the Thursday before Christmas. So if you would like to be involved in the 100th episode, please shoot me an email, k5clm@everythinghamradio, and give me an idea of what you would like to do or what you would like to see. And if you would like to help out any way of doing that, maybe looking at some kind of giveaways, or getting a radio for somebody, a listener, or something like that. So, like I said, shoot me an email. Let me know what you think. Give me some ideas on the 100th episode. Still about 20 weeks away, so we still got a little bit of time, but I would like to get that ironed out here in the next couple months or so. So I guess that pretty much wraps it up. I want to thank each one of y'all for listening and for sharing my podcast. It helps out immensely. So please share it with your friends and your fellow hams in the area. Let them know about the Everything Ham Radio podcast. So I guess that pretty much wraps it up. So until next time, this is K5CLM signing out. 73, y'all.